Welcome back into the Sports Source, this segment brought to you by Calhoun's. It's going to be in the 90s this week, folks. Know how to beat the heat? Head out to one of Calhoun's patios or decks for lunch, dinner, or just an after-work drink. Feel the breezes, especially those coming off the river or the lakes. When you go to Calhoun's, any of their 9 locations in East Tennessee, the taste of Tennessee, especially when it's hot. Calhoun's, get out and check them out this week. All right, a lot of turnover on next year's Tennessee basketball team. We're just going with some of the guys who played real minutes last year. Departing, Schofield, Williams, Alexander, Walker from the bench, and probably Bone. Arriving, all right, you got DJ Burns, redshirt. He'll be ready to play. Zach Kent, who we thought would be transferring, he's not. He's going to be back after a red shirt. Plavsic, Pember, freshman coming in. Plavsic is the 7-footer from Arizona State. Pember, freshman from in-town. Devontae Gaines, freshman. Josiah James is the 5-star. And then Olivier Robinson-Kamwa. I hope I'm pronouncing it. Good luck, Bob Kessling. Yeah. I don't like doing these names. And then returning, you've got Lamonte Turner, Jordan Bowden, John Fulkerson, Jalen Johnson, Yves Pons. That is a lot of turnover, and it's not just a question where you're losing experience and star power. Guys, I mentioned it in the last segment. One thing that concerns me is last year's team and the year before, because it's really a 2-year run here they had, those guys were self-motivated. Those guys coached one another. You kept hearing that from Barnes. You heard it from the assistants. You heard it from the players. How much of that culture? That's a lot of people changing to keep that same culture. It's hard to grade that. You're probably not going to read that when it comes to preseason magazines next year. That's my number one concern for this bunch. Are they going to be as motivated, as free with the basketball, as unselfish as this past team was? Those are huge question marks. Your thoughts on what Tennessee's got next year? You know, let's put it in simplest terms. Tournament team?
NIT.
Yeah. I think that's a legitimate.
I think they're a borderline NCAA tournament team. I do with what they. If the culture and the self-motivation is problem number one, 1A is the inside game. I don't see it. They need somebody to come up and average 8 points and 6, maybe 2 people average 8 points and 6 rebounds on the inside. I'm not sure if they've got that. I think their lack of inside experience and people that are proven to me is a big concern.
I mean, I think it comes out of 2 big questions. I mean, one, you're looking at the returners and Lamonte Turner and Jordan Bowden. Can those guys go from being role players into being stars, guys that are consistently in the double digits every week? We saw flashes of it last year, but can they be that? And then Josiah James, how good is he? We've seen 5-stars come in and be, you know, they get their feet wet, they're struggling, and then we've seen guys come in and just take over a team. If he's that kind of guy, well, then I think Tennessee's definitely a tournament team. And so it's sort of an unknown entity of how well he adjusts the college game. And can your role players step up and be big-time players and be guys that you can lean on? If you've got that, Tennessee's going to be in good shape. If Lamonte Turner and Jordan Bowden are who they are last year and Josiah James is a slow start, absolutely not a tournament team.
Well, and again, one thing about Turner, he had another procedure done on his shoulder as soon as the season ended. He's had a number of those. I think, what is that, 3 at this point?
Something like that.
And it hindered him at the start of last season. We don't know how healthy he'll be come the start of this season. Is that something that's always going to be a concern? Well, I think it has to be. If you've had 3 operations, you got to be concerned that it could go sideways at the wrong time. So that's another question to throw out there. Your thoughts, Bob, on this team? Tournament.
I kind of look at this team going into next year. Okay, don't worry too much about December. Don't worry about the first half of January. Where is the team come February? Because I think it's going to take a while, because you've lost all that leadership, because you may have lost the self-motivation. It's going to take a while to see exactly what you get. And with all these new pieces, are you going to see the same team, you know, going into the holiday tournaments that you see going into February and SEC play? So I think be patient and just see what comes out of it. But I agree that if Turner and Bowden are just the same guys they were, which wasn't bad last year, matter of fact, it was good for that team, I think you're going to be in a little bit of trouble.
Mike?
I agree. I'm with the guys that are saying this team is a borderline tournament team to me right now. See a lot of issues, but be an optimist and you look at Texas Tech; they lost 4 starters last year, and by golly, they went to the Final Four. Now they had a great player taking them to the Final Four, which I'm not sure Tennessee has, but I'm optimistic. You see it all the time. Guys step up and blossom and take on blooming new roles. So I'm optimistic, but also concerned.
You hit on something else, though. Texas Tech had great defense. You go back to that Tennessee team from 2 years ago that played great defense. Yeah. And I think if Kyle Alexander isn't hurt, that team had a better shot at the Final Four with its defensive makeup than this year's team did. I think if next year's team, that's one thing to consider. Rick Barnes needs to crack the whip on the defensive side because I don't know how many you're losing a lot of points, a lot of star power on offense.
Yeah.
This team may go back to being a defensive-minded basketball team, which could, in turn, make them a little bit better than we think right now. Because if you're grinding it out, you can grind out some wins there. Rick Barnes, could he possibly have a worst-timed season to have to rebuild? You had the UCLA flirtation. You have the raise that kicks in. And for those who haven't seen it, Penny Hardaway, who took all those shots at Barnes, Memphis just had the #1 signing class in the country, beat out Duke. In terms of grumbling next fall, you're saying wait till February to see what they got? Oh, Jimmy, you're going to be taking some angry calls, is my guess, starting at about November with this basketball team. Terrible timing for him.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, there were enough people that thought that his raise and bonus structure was too exorbitant. $5.2 million is what he'll average over the next 5 years. He gets $600,000 for going to the Sweet 16, and we've already had people say, well, if you're making that kind of money and you don't go to the Sweet 16, you ought to get your pay docked. So there are already some of those out there, so I'm sure they'll be waiting to pounce as soon as Tennessee loses a game.
But he's going to go out there in a big orange caravan this summer and meet with all the fans and smooth it out and win them over.
Is he going with Smokey?
Oh, that's right. They're not having the big orange
They're not doing the caravan. They're going to send Smokey around the state. All right. I don't know what his raise was this year in terms of Smokey. I'll give him a few extra biscuits. All right. When we come back, one national writer picked Tennessee to win 9 football games this fall. What's he smoking? We'll discuss next. Come on back.